1,041 feet. That is where Lake Mead sat on July 27, 2026. Less than half a foot from the lowest point this reservoir has ever reached in its 90-year life, a level so low that the white mineral stains circling the canyon walls now stretches taller than a 15-story building. A chalk-colored scar visible from satellites from the Las Vegas Strip, from the window of every plane that crosses southern Nevada on a clear afternoon. And it is still growing. 40 million people get their water from the system that feeds this lake. 1.3 million homes get their electricity from the dam that holds it back. The Bureau of Reclamation's own data shows the lake is down 13 feet from where it sat this same week last year. And federal forecasts released in June project it could reach 1,115 fet by July of next year, smashing the old record low by 25 fet and dropping into territory where Hoover Dam starts losing the ability to do the one job it was built for. The dam is not failing. Nobody is saying that. Hoover Dam will stand in that canyon for centuries. But a dam without enough water behind it is concrete and rebar doing nothing. And that is the line the largest reservoir in the United States is now walking toward, in plain sight, while 7 states argue over who should be the first to take less. I am Simon. This is the full story of what is happening at Lake Mead right now. Why the recovery everyone celebrated 2 years ago has been wiped off the map. What the engineers inside Hoover Dam are doing to buy time. And why the political fight over this water might end up in federal court before it ends at a negotiating table. Start with what the reservoir actually looks like today, because the numbers land differently when you can picture the place. Lake Mead stretches roughly 112 mists through the canyons east of Las Vegas when the water is near the top. At full capacity, it holds about 26 million acre-feet of water. 1 acre-foot covers a football field 1 feet deep, roughly 326,000 gallons, enough to supply 2 average American homes for a year. At full pool, the surface sits at 10,229 feet above sea level. The lake was last anywhere close to that in 1999. Today, it holds about 7 million acre-feet. That is 27% of capacity. A lake designed to store 9 years of Colorado River flow now holds closer to 1.5. Drive out from Las Vegas on US 93 toward the dam, and the first thing you see is the ring, a band of bleached white limestone and mineral crust running along both sides of the canyon for miles. It marks where the water used to be. The ring stretches nearly 188 feet above the current waterline. Every foot of exposed rock below that ring is a foot of water that is not there. Below the ring, the canyon walls are dark, jagged volcanic stone. Above it, the same. The white band in between is the receipt for 25 years of decline. And if you look closely at the shoreline, you can see what that decline has uncovered. Boat docks sitting on dry, cracked earth, their pylons reaching down to nothing, launch ramps that end 40 feet from the nearest water, rock formations and stretches of the original riverbed that no living person had seen before the lake started pulling back. Each one is a piece of a drowned landscape slowly coming back into daylight as the surface drops. Now here is the part that turns a drought story into something much harder to fix. The Colorado River was overpromised before Hoover Dam was even built. In November of 1922, representatives from 7 states met at a lodge in Santa Fe, New Mexico, to divide the river's water. The man running the talks was Herbert Hoover, then the Secretary of Commerce. They looked at flow records from the previous few decades and split up 16.5 million acre-feet per year. 7.5 million to the upper basin states, 7.5 million to the lower basin, and 1.5 million later promised to Mexico by treaty. The numbers sounded fair. The problem was the data. Those flow records came from an unusually wet stretch. Tree ring studies conducted by researchers at UCLA and other universities showed the real long-term average flow of the Colorado, measured across more than 1,000 years, is closer to 12 to 13 million acre-feet. The compact promised roughly 25 to 30% more water than the river has ever reliably delivered. From the day the ink dried, 7 states were dividing water that did not exist. For decades, the gap did not matter because Lake Mead and Lake Powell, the 2 biggest reservoirs in the country, had enough stored water to cover it. Think of them as a savings account. The withdrawals were bigger than the deposits, but the account had been built up during those flush early years. There was a cushion. That cushion is now nearly gone. The Bureau of Reclamation's weekly hydrologic update for July 27, 2026, puts total Colorado River system storage at 19,032,000 acre-feet. That is 33% of total system capacity. The